Yes, do you know what sane people do when they wake up at about, 3:30 in the morning on a Sunday? They go back to bed. But not me, no, because I'm a madman who reads the news. So I came across this hilariously condescending bedwetting of an article on The Guardian that I just have to share. The public doesn't understand the risk of a Trump victory. That's the media's fault. Well, hello there, you patronizing propagandists. How you doing? From your article, I imagine sweating buckets, which gives all of us great joy and giggles. And from an XX as well. Does that mean this article is going to be vacuous, hollow, completely void of any substance whatsoever? It's an XX, so expecting any more will leave you more disappointed than trying to climax after inhaling an 8-ball. With democracy on the back... Oh, shut up, will you? You know, at this point, I'm about 5 seconds away from saying, "Gimme the authoritarian," just so I don't have to hear that bloody phrase ever again. I'm so sick of this. Anyway, whatever doubts you may have about public opinion polls, one recent example should not be dismissed. So aggregates don't matter, just two of them. Journalism at work here, folks. Yes, that poll, the one from Siena College and the New York Times, had sent chills down many a spine. Speak for yourself, lass. For me and many others, it was a great joy, even more so seeing idiots like you get so worked up about it. It showed Donald Trump winning the presidential election by significant margins over Joe Biden in several swing states. Hooray! The places most likely to decide the presidential election next year. The poll, of course, is only one snapshot, and it has been criticized by flop sweat-driven nail-biters like the author of this article. But it still tells a cautionary tale, especially when paired with the certainty that Trump, if elected, will quickly move towards making the United States an authoritarian regime. Certainty? That you got from where exactly? Do you have any evidence for this whatsoever, or are you just trying to scaremonger over here and pulling this out of your fat ass? Given that you're writing for The Guardian and telling the world the media's job is to scare the population into witless submission, it's safe to say you're lying through your teeth. Add in Biden's low approval ratings, despite his accomplishments, which you know there will be no mention of here, or why they have failed, and if they are, I will be tearing through them faster than Zorro, and you come to an unavoidable conclusion: the news media needs to do its job better. So in your mind, your job is to propagandize the people into supporting the increasingly authoritarian, oligarchical administrative state. Quite the mask-off moment there. The press must get across to American citizens the crucial importance of this election and the dangers of a Trump win. That's going to be a tough sell, considering everything sucks and the previous dude was better by every available metric, including the main one that really matters above all, the dollars in one's wallet. They don't need to surrender their journalistic independence to do so or be in the tank for Biden or anybody else. Yes, actually, they do, you idiot. Who else is going to oppose Trump then? Hell, this isn't just scaremongering or lying, this is just straight up stupid. It is now clearer than ever that Trump, if elected, will use the federal government to go after his political rivals and critics, even deploying the military toward that end. His allies are hatching plans to invoke the Insurrection Act on day one. Yeah, I wonder why that is. I wonder if there might be a reason why the Don is ever so slightly perturbed. Do feel free to tell me in the comment section why you think that might be the case. The US would then resemble a banana republic, as if it doesn't freaking know. A University of Virginia law professor told the Washington Post when it revealed the schemes. Almost as troubling, two New York Times stories outlined Trump's autocratic plans to put lawyers in key posts and limit the independence of federal agencies. How about he just tortures them all together? My God, I'm pitching a semi just thinking about it. The press generally is not doing an adequate job of communicating those realities. Those are not realities, you furried up goofball. Those are fantastical nightmares that reside only in your propagandistic pushing noggin. Instead, journalists have emphasized Joe Biden's age and Trump's freewheeling style. They blame the public's attitudes on polarization as if they themselves have no role. Okay, yeah, that is in part kind of true if you're constantly trying to prop up the one guy who clearly sucks ass and denigrate the other dude who was objectively better. That might explain the polarization. It would also explain why some people also appear to be completely insane. And of course, they made the election about the horse race rather than what would happen a few lengths after the finish line. That's because they don't know what will happen, and neither do you. Here's what must be hammered home. Trump cannot be re-elected if you want the United States to be a place where elections decide outcomes, where voting rights matter, and where politicians don't baselessly prosecute their adversaries. I feel like this paragraph does not deserve anything more than a head tilt and the words, "Really? Who the hell do you think you're fooling here?" The projection is strong with this one. When Americans do understand how politics affects their lives, they vote accordingly. Yeah, and they understand that they have less dollars in their wallet now than when Trump was in charge, and they want the orange man back who doesn't start pointless wars and falls up a flight of stairs. We have seen that play out with respect to abortion rights in Ohio. You shut up. I don't care about any of this. This is where I go into sixth gear. This issue right here is why the 19th must go. This is the sole issue that will apparently marshal a significant amount of females to the polls, and that has nothing to do with politics. It is based purely on their ability to maintain a get-out-of-jail-free card when it comes to unprotected sex. That is how unbelievably selfish women actually are. They will completely avoid the responsibility of becoming educated in terms of politics and gravitate towards the one thing that will help them remain resolutely unaccountable for their own actions. The concept of being accountable is completely foreign to the modern woman. You know the old saying, with great power comes great responsibility? Yeah, you don't have the capacity to be responsible with this power, therefore you shouldn't have it. Simple as that. Trump's threat to democracy, that's a harder story to sell. Harder than Joe Biden is old. Harder than, gosh, America is so polarized. Journalists need to figure out a way to communicate it clearly and memorably. You can't propagandize people into believing Trump is a monster when he was already the president. How do you not get this? It was great to see digging that went into the Washington Post story about Trump and his allies plotting a post-election power grab. But it was all too telling to see this wording in its subhead. Critics have called the ideas under consideration dangerous and unconstitutional. So others think it's fine, right? That suggests that both sides have a valid point of view on whether democracy matters. Okay, here is my take on this. If Trump ran on doing A, B, C, and D, and he has forces standing in his way of accomplishing them, I think he is completely in his right to use whatever power he can muster to completely destroy every group, agency, or political agent that stands in his way. Because that is what he was elected to do. And if you care about democracy so damn much, I say let the will of the people be done, seeing as that is what they voted for. Deploying the military to crush protests is radical. So is putting your cronies and yes-men in charge of justice. Yeah, because the Biden administration definitely hasn't done that one. These moves would sound a death knell for American democracy. I fucking hate that phrase. They are not just another illustration of Trump's brash personality. Okay, this might just be because I'm far above this petty, pathetic propaganda, or perhaps because I have the capacity to be nuanced and not get my ovaries in a twist like this one over here. But deploying the military to crush protests is not radical. It just depends on what you deem justice. Like I said before, if there was a bunch of filthy communists protesting the rule of the monarchy, then I would say the king is completely in his right to embody the spirit of a certain great Chilean man. We need to see a lot more stories like the ones the Post and the Times did, not just in these elite paywalled outlets, but on the nightly news, on cable TV, in local newspapers, and on radio broadcasts. We need a lot less pussyfooting in the wording. God, I'm so bored. Every news organization should be reporting on this with far more vigor and repetition than they do about Biden being 80 years old. Yeah, he'd be 81 in a little over a week's time, by the way. I wonder how the media will try and spin that one. You know he is going to balls up his own birthday. Somehow. It is the media's responsibility to grab American voters by the lapels, not just to nod to the topic politely from time to time. Okay, this one has severe psychological problems. You could just picture her knocking back the wine glasses, typing this rubbish with jittering fingers, can't you? Polls can be wrong, and it's foolish to overstate their importance, especially a year away from the election. But if more citizens truly understood the stakes, there would be no real contest between these candidates. Yeah, they do. Their financial situation sucks, and they can't take the crushing inflation and sky-high energy costs, and so they wish to return to the guy who didn't bleed them dry every time they turn on their car or open their wallets. The Guardian's David Smith laid out the contrast. Since Biden took office, the U.S. economy has added a record 14 million jobs, while his list of legislative accomplishments has earned comparisons with those of Franklin Roosevelt and Lyndon Johnson. Okay, first off, most of those were not new jobs. That was just the economy coming back after the coup. Labor force participation rates is the real metric, and it is down significantly. And the inflation is eating away at any gains. Secondly, you want to compare Biden to FDR and LBJ, two of the worst presidents in American history. That's the most honest thing said in this entire article, though I suspect probably not on purpose. Hell, the former is the most authoritarian president since Woodrow Wilson, and the latter was responsible for the Great Society programs that decimated and destroyed the black family and ramped up U.S. involvement in Vietnam. He was so hated by his own party by the time the election came around, he declined to seek re-election and was pretty much ousted from the Democratic Party because his name was so toxic. It's a fitting comparison, actually. Trump, meanwhile, is facing 91 criminal indictments that no one cares about. In fact, it bolstered his approval and polls because it's clearly a political witch hunt. So what can the press do differently? Here's a few suggestions. Report more, much more, about what Trump would do post-election. Ask voters directly about whether they are comfortable with those plans and report on that. Display these stories prominently and then do it again soon. This is how you know these useless cretins know nothing about what the electorate actually want. If you ask them about Trump's plans to gut the federal government, you know what the response would be?
Yes, yes, oh God, yes!
You know, Norma's as good as an ending as I can possibly get to this laughably pathetic cries of witless desperation. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.